You might believe you're hearing this discourse by chance, but nothing in your life happens by accident. You are brought here because there's a truth that insists on returning to your consciousness, a truth you try to forget with the world's distractions, but which has never stopped whispering within you. The reality you experience is not created by what you do, but by what you assume yourself to be. And no matter how much the world has convinced you to wait for signs, fight for results, beg for change, you've always known, somewhere deep inside, that an invisible turning point exists, a moment when everything realigns, an instant when the external world loses its power to control you. For many, that instant never arrives. For you, it begins now. You were taught to believe you need to deserve, fight, prove your worth for something to change out there. But what you haven't realized is that this entire race is an illusion, because the physical world is merely the shadow cast by your inner state. If you try to change the shadow without changing the light, nothing happens. If you try to transform the scenery without embodying the role, everything remains the same. Reality, however solid it may seem, is obedient. It doesn't argue, doesn't debate, doesn't negotiate. It simply reflects. And what it reflects is the state you allow yourself to inhabit within. Throughout your entire life, you've wavered between states: hope, fear, urgency, doubt, confidence, anxiety. And each of these states bore fruit, not because the world decided to reward or punish you, but because you commanded it, silently, unconsciously, automatically. The state is the command. The state is the prayer. The state is the law. There is no greater power than this. No external ritual surpasses 5 minutes of true internal assumption. No technique, decree, or visualization works if you still feel separated from what you desire. Today, you will abandon the illusion that change depends on time, circumstances, or external actions. Today, you will learn to enter the only place where all creation truly happens, your inner state. And by understanding this, you will discover something many spend their entire lives without realizing: that 5 minutes of true awareness are worth more than years of blind effort. Because when you change your state, the world loses its right to remain the same. The first discipline is simple, yet few have the courage to practice it. You must completely abandon your old identity. All suffering, all stagnation, all sense of lack is born from the habit of continuing to carry within yourself the same story, the same image, the same I that should have already been left behind. As long as you continue to let your mind repeat, "I am someone trying, I am someone waiting, I am someone who hasn't arrived yet," reality will faithfully obey that state. Not because it wants to limit you, but because you are commanding it by identifying with an I that does not correspond to what you wish to manifest. The truth is that no one fails to manifest. People merely manifest the wrong state. You never receive what you want. You receive what you assume yourself to be. And if internally you continue to be someone who lacks, someone who searches, someone who waits for signs, then that is the command the world receives. It merely reproduces it. Imagine for a moment that you are standing before a large mirror. You try to change the reflection by moving your hands in the air behind the glass. You try to push the image, plead with it, argue with it. It doesn't change, but simply move your real body in front of the mirror and the reflection instantly obeys. This is the relationship between inner state and reality. The mirror creates nothing, it reflects. And in the same way, your life creates nothing, it reflects. Therefore, before asking the universe for anything, you must ask one single question: who am I being? This question is the key to everything because it reveals the state you truly inhabit, not what you say you inhabit. If you assume yourself to be someone who already possesses, then all your energy, your inner posture, your silence, your breathing change. There is no anxiety, there is no searching, there is no urgency. There is only the awareness of who you already are, and this awareness is irresistible. It reorganizes circumstances, people, invisible paths. That is why 5 minutes of true identity surpass years of mechanical repetitions. You can repeat "I have" 1,000 times, but if you continue to feel like someone who doesn't have, The repetition is useless. Words don't create, the state creates. Therefore, the first discipline is to choose now, not tomorrow, not after a sign, not when circumstances change, who you are. Close your eyes for an instant and completely abandon the old you. Let it fall away, like clothes that no longer fit. Silently step into the skin of the one who already lives what you desire. Feel the rest of that state. Feel the familiarity. Feel how it requires zero effort, because it is not a lie. It is your true nature remembered. Before we move on to the next point, let me tell you something that can greatly accelerate your transformation. There is a powerful, direct-to-the-point resource that has changed many people's lives. It shows, in a practical and structured way, how to use visualization and the law of attraction to shift from waiting mode to manifesting mode. You will learn to align your thoughts, emotions, and actions to attract exactly what you desire. Whether it's more financial freedom, healthy relationships, or a life with greater purpose and ease, it's not loose theory, nor empty motivational talk. It's real application with real results. If you feel it's time to stop merely dreaming and finally start living what you deserve, this could be your next step. The link is in the pinned comment. Click, explore, and see what has already begun to happen in the lives of those who decided to truly commit. Now then, let's move on to the next point. The second principle is to understand that every feeling is a seed, and what you feel now is the only raw material from which your future reality will be shaped. Many believe that thinking is enough, but thoughts are weak when they lack emotional roots. The universe does not respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you feel to be true. And this is where most people stumble. Not because they fail to desire, but because they continue to feel the exact opposite of what they desire. They ask for abundance, but feel lack. They ask for love, but feel rejection. They ask for healing, but feel fear. They ask for opportunities, but feel insecurity. And without realizing it, they water the wrong seeds daily. Therefore, before trying to manipulate the external world, you must learn to master your emotional vibration, because it is the silent decree that no obstacle can ignore. You don't need to feel euphoria, nor exaggerated enthusiasm. That's not what creates. What creates is the feeling of it already is. It is the inner rest that arises when you assume that what you desire already belongs to your current state. It's the same rest someone feels after closing their front door and knowing they are safe, or after completing an important task and knowing it is done. There is no tension, no struggle, no expectation. There is only certainty. This is the feeling that moves mountains. This is the vibration that makes the physical world obey. And it does not depend on what your eyes see. It depends exclusively on what your inner self accepts as fact. When you enter this feeling, even for a few seconds, you change the root of your experience. It's like altering the source code of an entire reality. Everything that once seemed impossible begins to reorganize in your favor, not because life decided to be kind, but because you are now emitting the only frequency it can obey. And in this state, situations change effortlessly. People appear unexpectedly. Doors open in absurdly precise ways. Not because you fought, but because you felt before you saw. The feeling is always the cause. The manifestation is always the effect. Therefore, for 5 minutes, close your eyes and feel yourself living exactly what you desire. Not as fantasy, but as memory. Feel it as natural, familiar, inevitable. Even if nothing around you confirms it, remain in the feeling of fulfillment. This is what defines your destiny. The third principle is to understand that the external world is always delayed. It will never be the first to move. It will never be the pioneer of your transformation. It always arrives last. The life you perceive with your eyes is merely the frozen surface of old states, old thoughts, old feelings. And yet, many live as slaves to appearances, reacting, fearing, giving up, interpreting every circumstance as if it were a final sentence. But appearance is just the echo. It is what has already passed. It is what has already died. The reality that matters, the living reality, is the one you maintain within yourself, even when everything outside says otherwise. This is why so many never advance, because they demand that the mirror change before they change their face. There is an inviolable rule. The physical world will always test you with the same old image before revealing the new. Always. Not out of malice, but because this is the perfect mechanism to know if you have truly assumed the new state or merely desired it superficially. If you are easily swayed by circumstances, it's because you haven't assumed the new state. You are still governed by the old you. But when you remain firm, silent, and calm, even in the face of opposing evidence, you declare to the universe that you have already become who you ought to be. And this kind of conviction accelerates everything. Think of a seed cast into the soil. In the first few days, all you see is nothing, empty ground, a complete absence of signs, but beneath the surface, life is already happening. Roots are forming. The structure is expanding. The invisible is organizing everything so that at the exact moment the visible will appear. It is this way with any manifestation. First the invisible organizes, then the visible conforms. But the impatient pull up the seed, disturb the process, abandon the state because nothing has happened yet. And it is precisely this fluctuation that destroys the result. If you knew how delayed the visible world is in relation to what you have already assumed, you would never waste time reacting to circumstances. You would remain silent. You would breathe deeply. You would return to the state. You would confirm within yourself that the new reality already exists, and you would let the world at its slow pace merely follow the command. When you truly understand this, your anxiety dies, your fear dies, your doubt dies, because you realize that nothing out there has the power to contradict what you have already experienced within. The fourth principle is the forgotten art of silent acceptance, the ability to internally receive what you desire before any evidence appears. Many ask, few receive. And I'm not talking about receiving physically, but about receiving in your heart, in your core, in the secret place where everything is created. When you ask for something, but continue to feel needy, insecure, lacking proof, it means you have received nothing. True receiving is an internal act, and it happens in an instant, the moment you surrender to certainty. It's not enthusiasm, it's not exaggerated emotion. It's that deep rest that arises when something within you says, "It is done." In that instant, your desire ceases to be a request and becomes a possession. And from then on, the world is no longer creating your promise. It is merely delivering what you have already accepted. Silently accepting means stopping the mental repetition of doubt, stopping the replaying of the past as if it still held authority over you, stopping the reliving of fears that no longer exist. It means entering a new inner atmosphere, a new vibration that aligns with what you have already decided to be. But the biggest obstacle to this is the habit of insisting on the old state. Many say, "I believe," but within them hide micro-tensions, small anxieties, expectations of failure, memories of loss. And these small shadows cause the person to continue vibrating in the old state, even while trying to assume the new one. Therefore, the way is not to force belief, but to rest in what you want. Resting is more powerful than struggling. Resting is more powerful than trying. Resting is declaring to the universe that you are not waiting for anything because you have already received. Notice that true acceptance dispenses with urgency. Someone who has already received doesn't compare, doesn't observe signs, doesn't measure time, doesn't live in the tension of when. Someone who has already received lives in peace. And this peace is precisely the vibration that pulls the invisible into the visible. It is the bridge. It is the magnet. It is the point of contact between the assumed state and inevitable manifestation. When you enter this inner rest, everything changes. Your body relaxes, your thoughts slow down, your emotional field stabilizes. And in this stability, the universe finds passage to act. Not because you pleaded, but because you accepted. It is this inner silence that separates those who live reacting from the conscious creator you were born to be. And when you master this silent acceptance, life ceases to be an effort and becomes obedience. You assume within, it delivers without. It's that simple. The fifth principle is to understand that persistence in the state is more powerful than any external action, because it is the only element capable of completely restructuring your reality. You do not manifest what you visit for a few seconds. You manifest what you dwell in. And dwelling does not mean effort, compulsive repetition, or trying to convince yourself. Dwelling means remaining faithful to the chosen state, even when nothing in the world confirms that state. It is the silent fidelity, the inner constancy, the firm posture of someone who has already decided who they are and refuses to return to the old you. This is what separates the wishful thinker from the creator. The wishful thinker seeks signs. The creator maintains the state. The wishful thinker watches time. The creator rests in certainty. The wishful thinker wavers. The creator remains internally unmoving even when everything outside tries to distract them. To persist is not to struggle. To persist is not to obsessively monitor progress. To persist is not to protect yourself from fear. To persist is simply to refuse to abandon the assumed identity. If you have assumed yourself to be prosperous, remain prosperous internally, even if the world still shows bills. If you have assumed yourself to be healthy, remain healthy internally, even if your body still presents symptoms. If you have assumed yourself to be loved, remain loved internally, even if the past still tries to whisper rejection. Persistence is inner continuity, not outer reaction. When you sustain the chosen state, even in the face of old appearances, you prove to the universe that you have already become the new version of yourself, and from that moment on, nothing can prevent manifestation. Think of a compass. No matter how many times you turn it, shake it, or press it, it always returns to pointing north. That is true persistence. No matter how many old thoughts try to surface, how many memories try to pull you back, how many circumstances try to provoke you, your consciousness must always return to the chosen state. This constancy generates an invisible force that no obstacle can resist. The entire universe bows before someone who sustains a state with firmness, silence, and conviction. There is no more powerful force. And when you master this persistence, you become untouchable. Nothing sways you, nothing controls you, nothing threatens you, because you understand that the external world is merely the delayed reflection of what you have already concluded within yourself. And if what is within is firm, what is without is compelled to transform, sooner or later. Now that you have heard each principle, understand. None of this will have value if you continue to live as someone who pleads, waits, or fears. You were not born to ask reality for permission. You were born to command it, not with arrogance, but with awareness, not with force, but with certainty. Life has always been obedient to you, but you forgot this when you allowed appearances to dictate who you were. Today, this illusion comes to an end. From this instant, abandon the habit of chasing what you desire and begin to occupy the state of someone who already possesses it. Live from the inside out. Speak little, feel deeply, and let the universe, slow as ever, merely follow what is already fact within you. When circumstances try to convince you otherwise, do not react. Remember, they are old shadows. They hold no power over who you have decided to be. Remain in the state, persevere in the feeling, accept in silence, and calmly observe the world conforming, piece by piece, exactly as you saw it within. This is the secret that has always been hidden in plain sight. It's not what you do that creates, it's what you assume. And if you wish to deepen this awakening, go beyond the surface and truly master this life-transforming force. Pay attention to what is in the pinned comment. There is the next step, direct and simple, for those who have decided to stop begging life and finally assume the place of conscious creator. Whoever understands this path does not turn back, because after seeing your reality obey, you never forget who you truly are. Throughout your life, you were conditioned to believe that money is something outside of you, a distant energy, reserved only for those who know how to play the game. You were told you should work harder, fight harder, prove your worth, compete, please, beg. And without realizing it, you began to serve money, when in fact it should serve you. You believed that the world measures you by your balance, that opportunities are scarce, that success depends on luck or connections. But today I tell you, this is the lie that keeps you enslaved. Money is not an external force. It is an extension of your own state of consciousness. What you call a financial block is not a curse. It is merely an illusion sustained by years of mental repetition, a collective hypnosis that convinced you that you are small, needy, unworthy. But within you dwells the Creator, who shapes gold, bread, houses, and kingdoms. Everything you see outside is merely a reflection of the state you carry in silence. If there is scarcity within, there will be lack outside. If there is certainty within, there will be harvest outside. Nothing in the material world possesses its own power. No job, client, investment, or chance creates wealth by itself. All these are merely instruments of the state you have assumed. If you dwell in the vibration of need, even what you have slips through your fingers. But if you rest in the consciousness of abundance, the entire universe conspires to multiply what is yours. Therefore, I don't teach you to chase money. I teach you to command money through your mind. Today, for 3 minutes, I will lead you back to your origin, the point where there is no lack, no fear, no doubt. Because before any crisis, before any debt, before any bill to pay, there was only the I am. And this I am is the same power that creates worlds, moves circumstances, and writes destinies. It doesn't need approval, nor human strategies. It merely declares and is. When you remember this, all shackles fall away. There is no more struggle, no more anxiety. There is only mastery, and money returns to what it always was, an obedient servant to your state. Every thought of fear is an order for scarcity. Every inner certainty is an order for abundance. Today I will not give you a technique nor a mantra. I will give you a remembrance, the remembrance of who you are. The being who does not depend on luck because they are the source itself. The being who does not beg because they are the owner of the kingdom. The being who does not doubt because they know. When this remembrance awakens within you, every financial block will dissolve like mist before the sun. And what once seemed impossible will begin to happen, not through effort, but through alignment. Money will not come to you. It has always been within you, waiting for you to stop denying it with your doubt. Now breathe and listen with your soul, because in 3 minutes, if you allow it, I will not only speak about financial liberation, I will make you feel it. Money is not a thing, it is a state. And as long as you believe it is something outside of you, it will continue to elude you. Most people try to change their lives by accumulating external actions. They work harder, save more, make plans, but continue to vibrate with the same feeling of lack. It's like trying to fill a leaky cup. It's not effort that sustains abundance. It's the inner state that manifests it. Everything that exists in your world is merely a mirror of what you accept yourself to be. Therefore, if you accept being one who needs, the universe responds with more need. But if you become one who possesses, the universe bows and provides. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself completely at peace. There are no debts, no rush, no fear. Money arrives fluidly without struggle. You can feel it coming from multiple directions, a constant, silent, and certain flow. This is not fantasy. It is the remembrance of your natural state. Before you learned to fear scarcity, a pure consciousness existed within you that never knew lack. It is to that state that you must return. The world is a theater of reflections. No financial event happens by chance. An unexpected raise, a delay, a loss, all are exact responses to the role you are playing. And the role is chosen within, not outside. When you assume the role of someone who is trying to improve, you remain the character who is not yet. The universe obeys your vibration, not your words. It doesn't understand requests. It understands positions. And the most powerful position is certainty. There is no effort in being what you already are. A river doesn't need to chase the sea. It flows to it naturally. So it is with money. It seeks those who vibrate as a source, not as a beggar. And you, contrary to what you were taught, are not a beggar trying to earn blessings. You are the channel through which abundance manifests. Every time you worry, you block the flow. Every time you trust, you clear the path. Money is not attracted by desperation. It is attracted by tranquility. Feel now the power of one who already has. Feel the difference between asking and commanding, between desiring and accepting. One who desires confesses absence. One who accepts confirms possession. When you say, "I am prosperous," the universe has no choice but to mirror this in the form of perfect circumstances, opportunities, and coincidences. The secret is to remain in this state, even when your senses say otherwise. What appears to be reality is merely the delayed reflection of who you were yesterday. Today you are creating tomorrow. And if today you place yourself in the vibration of abundance, inevitably the world will have to bend to this new decree. Money will not come because you asked for it. It will come because you recognized it as part of you. This is the first and deepest liberation. Everything begins when you stop seeking gold and start being gold. All resistance is belief disguised as prudence. It is fear masked as logic, doubt dressed as realism. Humanity has been taught to fear the invisible, and so tries to control the world with effort. But effort without faith is merely empty agitation. When someone says, "I'm trying to change my life," it already reveals they don't yet believe in the change. Because those who believe don't try, they live. Those who know don't seek signs, they create them. Resistance is not an external obstacle. It is the internal cry that says, "What if it doesn't work out?" And as long as that voice echoes within you, it will continue to shape your reality. Life is extremely literal. It doesn't give you what you ask for, it gives you what you are. And to be in this context means what you persistently feel. You can repeat "I am rich" 1,000 times, but if within you vibrates the anxiety of someone who fears the end of the month, the universe will hear only the fear, not the words. The sound of your vibration speaks louder than any affirmation. Therefore, the only way to change is to abandon the old state, not to fight against it. Resisting scarcity is to strengthen it. Remembering it is to feed it. Everything you combat, you perpetuate. When you stop trying and start inhabiting the new state, the energy changes. Money, which once seemed distant, begins to appear in unexpected ways. The client who wasn't responding sends a message, a debt is resolved, an opportunity reveals itself. It's not magic, it's consequence. The universe responds to your new inner posture. It's not effort that moves circumstances, it's the abandonment of doubt. Think of a seed. It doesn't need to struggle to grow, it simply surrenders to the process, trusting that the sun will come. The same intelligence that guides nature also guides your financial life. But you interfere, you doubt, you dig up the earth every day to see if the miracle is happening. And it is this impatience that kills the flourishing. Learn from the seed. It doesn't demand proof, it just grows. When you realize that doubt is merely a reflection of the old self, choose to ignore it. Don't fight it, just observe and return to certainty. This return, repeated daily, slowly dissolves the habit of scarcity. This is how faith is built, not in grand gestures, but in small, convinced silences. True faith has no urgency because it already possesses. Resistance dies when trust becomes your natural state, and in that instant doors open. There is no more how or when, there is only it is, and when your heart rests in this it is, the entire universe reorganizes around your new center. Money, opportunities, freedom, everything comes to you not as a prize, but as the inevitable response of one who stopped trying and started being. Life always obeys the picture you carry in silence. It is this invisible picture, the collection of images, emotions, and convictions you hold within, that defines everything you see outside. People believe they live reacting to the world, but the world merely reflects what they sustain internally. If there is a feeling of debt within, the universe organizes itself to confirm that debt. If there is certainty of abundance within, it manifests means, people, and events that confirm that abundance. The invisible dictates the visible. The mind is the brush, and reality is merely the canvas. You create all the time, even when you believe you are not creating. Every worry is a form of inverted prayer. When you focus on the fear of losing, you are, without realizing it, asking life to prove you right, and it will prove it. Because the universe is perfect in its obedience. It doesn't question, it merely reflects. Poverty is not punishment. It is merely an inner image sustained for so long that it has become a landscape. But the power is within you, not in circumstances. Change the picture and the mirror changes. Don't try to force the reflection, transform the image. Close your eyes and see yourself differently. Feel the relief of one who knows that money will never be lacking. Feel the confidence of one who knows they are sustained by something greater than a salary. If you can hold this image for a few minutes without doubting, you have already begun to rewrite your destiny. You were made in the image and likeness of the Creator, and this image is not physical, it is mental. To create in the likeness means to imagine with authority. What you imagine with faith becomes inevitable. If you constantly think of limitations, the entire world will conspire to confirm them. But if you consistently sustain the feeling of fullness, the universe will have no choice but to offer you paths that reflect that state. It is a law as exact as gravity. You don't need to understand how the money will come. The how belongs to the wisdom of the invisible. Your only duty is to keep the vision clear. Every time you doubt, you smudge the painting. Every time you trust, you perfect the stroke. Therefore, guard your attention as one guards a treasure. What you look at with emotion grows. If you look at lack, it expands. If you look at abundance, it flourishes. Remember, life does not respond to your words but to your constant vibration. It's no use saying I am prosperous if your heart still vibrates I can't. The effective decree is one that is born of certainty, not hope. When this inner image becomes more real than the external scenario, matter bends. And then you will see before your eyes what has always existed within you. The faithful reflection of the new picture you chose to carry in silence. The miracle doesn't come. It emerges when you cease fear. Money, opportunities, and paths were never distant. They simply couldn't approach while your heart trembled before appearances. Fear is the true block. It makes you doubt, makes you run in circles, makes you believe there are forces outside your control. But the truth is that the universe bows to the state of one who does not fear. When the mind silences and the soul trusts, the invisible begins to work in your favor in ways that reasoning would never understand. Everything that is owed to you is already in the invisible, awaiting the moment you stop doubting. There is nothing to conquer, only to accept. When you say, I need money, you are declaring absence. But when you say, everything that is mine already belongs to me, you are opening the door to the flow. Abundance is not created, it is allowed, and fear is the only barrier between you and what is rightfully yours by divine right. There is no force against you, only your own hesitation. As long as you believe something out there is stopping you, you will be feeding the illusion of an obstacle. When you understand that everything that happens to you is merely an echo of your vibration, power returns to your hands. There is no more victim, no more culprits, no more bad luck. There is only consciousness. And where there is consciousness, there is mastery. True faith is not emotion, it is position. It is the firm ground where you stand even when the wind blows against you. It is looking at an empty account and feeling gratitude, not despair. It is smiling in the face of delay because you know that the invisible never fails. It merely adjusts. When you reach this state, you stop acting as a servant of matter and become its master. Life reorganizes, not because you asked, but because you remained unwavering in the conviction of your power. Fear tries to convince you that it is prudence, but it is just the voice of the old self, and every time you listen to it, you relive the past. So when it comes, and it will come, don't confront it, don't argue, just observe and return to certainty. You don't need to conquer fear, just stop feeding it. It is not something to be overcome, but forgotten. When fear dies, the miracle appears, not as something extraordinary, but as the natural state of things. Money begins to emerge, doors open, solutions arrive. Not because the world changed, but because you changed the center from which you create. And in that center there is no doubt, only certainty. The true miracle is realizing that nothing needs to happen for you to feel complete. It is at that instant that the invisible bows, and everything that is yours begins to seek you out. Gratitude is not a response. It is the silent command that moves the universe. Most people give thanks after receiving, but the true Creator gives thanks before, because they know. They don't wait for the miracle, they recognize it before it becomes visible. And it is this recognition that dissolves the block, because one who is grateful before seeing has already entered the state of one who possesses. To give thanks in advance is to declare, it's already mine, it has already happened, I already am. When you place yourself in this state, everything begins to align in an almost magical way. The right people appear, ideas emerge, paths open. And none of this comes because you begged, but because you vibrated as someone who already has. The universe does not respond to requests, it responds to frequencies. Gratitude is the frequency of possession, of abundance, of certainty. When you give thanks with true emotion, you are not saying, "I want more." You are saying, "I already have more than enough." And enough multiplies. Feel the power of this feeling now. Give thanks for the money that is already on its way, for the opportunities that are already forming, for the resources that already exist in the invisible, awaiting the right moment to manifest. Give thanks for the paid bill, for the resolved debt, for the tranquility that already dwells in your heart. Even if your eyes don't see, your soul already knows. Gratitude is the language the soul speaks, and the universe understands. It is not possible to hold gratitude and scarcity in the same space. When the heart is grateful, the mind stops asking and begins to trust, and it is at that instant that the flow returns. Money cannot approach those who constantly complain, but it rushes to meet those who recognize the good in everything. Because what you recognize expands. If you complain about lack, lack grows. If you recognize what you have multiplies. Therefore, don't wait for change to give thanks. Give thanks now, even if the scenery still looks the same. That sameness is about to crumble before your new vibration. Gratitude is the final blow to scarcity, the invisible fire that burns away the old state and makes room for the new. Feel, in this moment, the silence between one thought and another. That is where your true wealth resides. The simple fact of your existence is proof that abundance sustains you. Give thanks for this. And as you give thanks, realize financial blocks were not just dissolved, they were erased from your vibration. The old needy self died. The new abundant self was born. Now, speak with power. Everything I need is already coming to me. I am sustained, guided, and blessed by a force that never fails. Remain in this, not by effort, but by certainty. Because one who gives thanks before seeing is already living the miracle. Now that you have heard, do not return to the old state, because the old state no longer exists. It only lives if you call it back with your doubt. Everything that was a block has been erased, not by words, but by remembrance. You have recalled who you are, the Creator. And the Creator does not ask, does not plead, does not fear. They observe, declare, and know. You don't need to fight anything. Just sustain the consciousness of one who already possesses money, abundance, tranquility. All of this now bends to the new center that has awakened within you. You are no longer one who seeks. You are one who commands. The one who desires is the servant. The one who knows is the master. And the master does not argue with the reflection. They simply change the image. Life will respond to your certainty as an echo responds to sound. From now on, every time doubt tries to visit you, smile. Because it is merely the voice of a past that no longer exists. You are not one who needs, you are one who creates. Everything that belongs to you is already on its way, because the way is now you. Seek no more signs, become the sign. Silence. Breathe. Feel the vastness of one who is complete. Abundance does not begin tomorrow. It begins the instant you stop begging for it. From today, your financial life changes not by miracle, but by obedience. The universe obeys those who know. Then command in silence, I am manifested wealth, I am the inexhaustible source. I am the power that creates and sustains. Remain in that state, and the world will bow, because nothing can resist one who remembers that everything already is, and that gold, bread, and glory are not outside but within. And now the within has awakened. Remember this. You are not limited creatures wandering through an indifferent world. You are creators who have forgotten your heritage. The life you see before your eyes is merely a delayed reflection of what was already conceived in the silence of the mind. Everything you now consider reality was, first, a sustained assumption, an image accepted as true. Humanity's error is believing that the visible governs, when in truth, the visible obeys. When I tell you, act as if you already have millions, I'm not speaking of a game of pretense or a superficial trick. I'm speaking of the key that opens the gates of creation. It is the law of assumption, which governs both the beggar and the king. Each person in their innermost being wears the state they believe to be theirs, and life responds faithfully. You don't need to wait for favorable circumstances, for external signs, or for some distant intervention. Everything has already been given, but it only becomes visible when you dare to assume it. Look at the world today. How many work tirelessly but live in scarcity? How many struggle, put in great effort, but remain in the same place? It is not work that enriches you. It is the state you choose to inhabit. The poor in consciousness will remain poor, even if fortune is handed to them, and the rich in consciousness will find ways to prosper, even if everything is taken from them. This is the immutable law. Therefore, I tell you, stop begging to the world. Stop looking at an empty pocket hoping it will fill before you believe. Reverse the path. First, believe. First, assume. First, inhabit the feeling of already possessing. Walk through the street, not as one who asks, but as one who distributes. Speak not as one who fears loss, but as one who knows they will always have. Decide not as slaves to lack, but as masters of abundance. You will ask me, what if I do this? What will happen? And I tell you, when consciousness changes, the world has no choice. The right people will cross your path, doors previously invisible will open, what seemed impossible will become commonplace. Life will obey the silent decree of your mind, not because you begged, but because you commanded. And this command is not a shout, not despair, not a plea. It is the calm certainty of one who already knows. You are heirs to an ancient truth, but you have forgotten it. And I am here to remind you, the treasure you seek outside is buried within. The world is merely the stage. You are the playwright and the actor. Act as if you already have millions, because in the state you dare to inhabit, there, wealth already exists. The rest, everything you call a miracle, will be nothing more than reality's inevitable obedience to the awakened Creator. When I tell you to assume the end as accomplished, I speak of one of the deepest truths the human mind can grasp. Most people live as if they are on their way to something, as if life were an infinite road where what is desired is always ahead, never present. This attitude creates an illusion. Desire always becomes future, and the future never arrives. The secret is to reverse this process. Don't wait for the day you become a millionaire. See yourself as one already. Don't wait for signs. Live now as a memory of something already realized. The end is not a distant promise. It is a present state. It is at this point that many fail, because they believe they need evidence to be convinced. But evidence only appears after the state is accepted as true. Imagine a person who desires wealth, but lies down every night lamenting lack, calculating debts, dreaming of a better future. This person has not understood the law. They continuously water the seed of poverty. With every image of scarcity held in their mind, they confirm the state of want. And the world faithfully responds. Now imagine another person who, even with no money in their pocket, closes their eyes and feels the comfort of a prosperous life. They walk imagining themselves already free, secure, capable of choosing and deciding without restriction. They don't wait for the bank statement to show high numbers. They already live internally as if they were real. This person, even if the external world denies it, has already changed their destiny. Because the state they accepted is the accomplished end. Assuming the end is an act of courage, because it requires abandoning the old identity. Many say they want to prosper, but still cling to the image of one who suffers, one who lacks, one who waits. They carry this state like an old garment, and then wonder why life doesn't change. The end requires that the garment be changed immediately. One cannot wear the state of scarcity and the state of abundance at the same time. It is a firm, silent choice, and it must be made now, not tomorrow. When Neville learned this principle, he asked me, "How can I live something I don't see?" And I told him, "What you don't see outside, see inside. What you don't feel in your pocket, feel in your heart. The invisible is more real than appearance. Inhabit it until it becomes flesh." He understood that it wasn't about waiting patiently, but about assuming, not as hope, but as remembrance. That is the difference. Waiting is doubt. Remembering is certainty. Do you want wealth? Then stop imagining yourselves as struggling for it. See yourselves as already possessing it. Not in the future, but in the now. Lie down tonight giving thanks for what already is, and not asking for what has not come. Walk with the demeanor of one who has choices. Speak with the confidence of one who possesses abundance. This change, invisible at first, takes root, and sooner or later the world will be compelled to yield. Circumstances will shift, people will emerge, opportunities will align, not by chance, but because the end has already been assumed. To assume the accomplished end is to live as if destiny has already been fulfilled. It is to rest in the chosen state and refuse any other image. And if you ask me what will happen when you do this, I tell you, the miracle will become inevitable. The world, which has always been merely a reflection, will be compelled to reveal the wealth you first dared to clothe yourselves with in silence. This is the law. This is the power that has always been in your hands. The second principle is the discipline of imagination. Understand this clearly. The human mind is like a fertile field that never rests. Everything you allow to grow there will, at some point, become reality. There is no pause, no neutrality. Every thought, every image, every repeated emotion is a seed cast into the invisible, and the harvest is inevitable. That is why I tell you that the discipline of imagination is one of the greatest riches a person can possess, because it decides whether your life will be a garden of abundance or a field overrun with weeds. Most people live inattentively. They let their minds wander like a river without banks. They feed thoughts of fear, scarcity, and doubt, and then are surprised when external life confirms precisely these images. When faced with a debt, they imagine only its burden. When desiring an opportunity, they spend more time visualizing closed doors than open ones. They do not understand that imagination is always creative, never an empty game. Every time an image is repeated, it descends into the subconscious and becomes an order, a decree that reality obeys without question. Discipline, then, is the act of guarding the inner field. It is to immediately uproot thoughts of lack and replace them with the image of what you desire. I do not mean to fight against unwanted thoughts, because fighting gives them strength. I mean to shift your focus, to firmly and convincingly change the internal scene. If a thought of scarcity arises, do not dwell on it. Replace it with the image of abundance. Do this as many times as necessary until the mind becomes accustomed to the new state. This silent repetition molds consciousness like a sculptor molds stone. Imagine a man who decides to become rich, but allows his imagination to be invaded daily by images of failure. He sees himself going bankrupt, being rejected, having no way out. Even if he repeats positive affirmations, his imagination betrays him. This man, without realizing it, has already decreed his ruin. Now imagine another who, even in the face of difficulty, closes his eyes and sees himself already victorious. He builds within himself a repeated scene, signing contracts, giving thanks for prosperity, enjoying the freedom he desires. He sustains this vision even when the external world shouts the opposite. This is the man disciplined in imagination, and it is his life that will be transformed. Discipline requires courage, because it is not natural for modern humans to guard their thoughts. Many allow themselves to be swept away by news, by others' opinions, by collective fears. They have become servants of alien images, and they do not realize they are feeding states they do not desire. True wealth lies in assuming the position of master of the mind, consciously choosing what to allow to grow, sustaining the correct image with perseverance until it becomes natural. And when you achieve this discipline, you will see that imagination will become your greatest ally. What once seemed improbable will become inevitable. The external world will begin to align because the order has already been given in the invisible. You will see opportunities where before you only saw blockages, you will attract the right people instead of obstacles. Not because the world changed on its own, but because you changed the seed planted. Life is too fair to fail. You reap only what you sow. If you discipline your imagination to remain firm in the state of abundance, sooner or later you will reap abundance. If you sustain the image of already possessing millions, reality will obey. There are no exceptions, no shortcuts. Imagination is the true government of existence, and the world, a faithful servant, merely carries out the orders you give it in silence. The third principle is to detach from appearances. This is perhaps the most difficult test for humans, because from childhood, they have been taught to believe that what they see with their eyes is the only reality. If the bank account is empty, they conclude they are poor. If the door is closed, they believe there is no way out. If the external world cries scarcity, they bow and say, "That's just how things are." But I tell you firmly, the visible is not the truth. It is merely an echo. What you see now is not a sentence. It is a consequence. What truly governs is hidden in the invisible, in the state you have chosen to sustain within yourselves. To detach from appearances is to refuse to be a slave to reflection. It is to look at the present situation, however limited it may seem, and declare within yourself, "This does not define who I am. This is merely the residue of what I thought yesterday. Today I choose another state." It is to understand that current circumstances are delayed, like the light from a star that died thousands of years ago, but still reaches our eyes. What you are seeing is the past frozen in form. True life moves in the invisible, and it is there that change begins. Imagine someone who decides to assume the state of a millionaire, but upon opening their banking app, despairs at a negative balance. This is the mistake. Because by allowing themselves to be dominated by appearance, they return to the old state and reconfirm poverty. The true exercise is to remain faithful to the invisible, even when everything external seems to deny it. It is to sustain abundance within, even if the senses cry scarcity. This is the sacrifice, to abandon the idolatry of appearances and worship only the invisible truth. Do not think this is an escape from reality. On the contrary, it is facing a greater reality. The visible world is like a shadow. Those who cling to the shadow forget the light. You have been called to live by the light, not by the shadow. To detach from appearances is to stop reacting like slaves to every external fluctuation and start responding like masters. It doesn't matter if they say the economy is in crisis. It doesn't matter if the surrounding numbers are small. It doesn't matter if everyone claims it's impossible. The question is not, what do I see outside, but what state do I inhabit within? It is this answer that shapes tomorrow. Remember the scripture, "The just shall live by faith, not by sight." This is not poetry. It is law. Sight means appearance. Faith means sustained assumption. If you live by faith, you live by the inner state, not by what your eyes tell you. And when you remain firm in this stance, you will see that external reality begins to bend, not because you fought against it, but because it has no choice. Appearance has no life of its own. It is animated only by the state you carry. Thus, if you want riches, disengage from the spectacle of an empty pocket. If you want freedom, do not let yourselves be bound by visible chains. If you want abundance, do not reverence the scarcity that your senses show. Sustain the inner vision with firmness, as one who already possesses. Do this consistently, and life sooner or later will reflect the new truth. Because detaching from appearances is to silently proclaim, "Reality does not govern me. I govern reality." And when this stance becomes natural, you will see that what once imprisoned you will lose its power. Debts will disappear, doors will open, circumstances will reorganize, not because you chased after the world, but because the world chased after the inner order you maintained. This is supreme freedom. Not to be a servant of what appears, but a master of what is. The fourth principle is to act in accordance with the assumed state. It's not enough to merely imagine or just sustain in silence. You must live, in every gesture, as one who already is what you have decided to be. Act like a millionaire, not in the superficial sense of spending without limits or flaunting wealth, but in the sense of carrying yourself with the confidence, dignity, and security of one who already has. The person who assumes a state must embody that state in their daily behavior. If inwardly you already possess, then outwardly your walk, your speech, your decisions will reflect that possession. Think about how someone with millions would behave in life. They don't act driven by fear of lack. They don't make small decisions out of desperation. They don't shrink before circumstances. They walk upright, look calmly, speak firmly, treat others with generosity. They don't rush, don't beg, don't doubt. Now, if you want to inhabit the state of wealth, You need to start adopting these attitudes even before external signs appear. Because signs do not come to confirm faith. Signs come because faith has already been assumed. To act in accordance with the state is to bring coherence between imagination and life. If inwardly you are rich, but outwardly you live as if destitute, you contradict your creation. It is like planting an orange seed and every day pulling it from the earth to check if it has grown. This doubt kills the harvest. But if you act in harmony with the inner vision, you provide proof to the invisible world that you believe. And this firm belief becomes flesh. This means choosing words that express confidence. It means making decisions not based on fear of scarcity, but on the certainty of abundance. It means rising in the morning not with the weight of a burden, but with the lightness of one who is already free. It means treating every person as worthy of respect, because you see yourself as worthy of all wealth. The man poor in mind always lives shrunken, trying to protect the little he has. The man rich in consciousness expands, because he knows he can lack nothing. Remember, acting in accordance is not pretending. It is living the invisible truth before the world recognizes it. It's not about lying to yourself, but about aligning with the chosen state. If you see yourself as a millionaire, then ask yourself, how would I solve this problem if I were rich? How would I treat this person if I were prosperous? How would I walk through the streets? How would I rest at night if I already had millions? By answering and acting accordingly, you are already shaping the path. The universe responds to this coherence. Small opportunities will arise, discrete doors will open, and soon scenarios will reorganize to match the assumed posture. Because life is a faithful mirror. It doesn't return what you ask for, but what you are. And to be is not just to imagine, it is also to act. Therefore, do not wait for signs to begin. Behave today as one who already possesses, and the world obedient will show increasing proof that the assumed state was true from the beginning. This is the secret. Action does not create, but confirms to the invisible that you have already chosen. And when this choice is sustained with firmness, sooner or later your entire life will bend to obey. The fifth principle is to give thanks in advance. This is the seal of faith, the silent proof that you already know you possess what you desire. One who gives thanks before seeing demonstrates that they have already accepted the end as accomplished, that they do not depend on signs to believe, that they do not need appearances to feel complete. Gratitude before manifestation is the key that closes the creative cycle, because it reveals the certainty that the invisible is already reality. Observe how most people act. They ask, they plead, they wait, and only when something external happens do they give thanks. This gratitude is weak because it is tied to the reflection, not to the source. But the true creator gives thanks at the beginning, not at the end. They lie down at night with a full heart, not because they saw high numbers in their account, but because inwardly they already possess the feeling of abundance. They awaken in the morning and even before opening their eyes, murmur gratitude for what already is, even if the external world seems to contradict it. This silent act is a declaration of authority. I have already received. Giving thanks in advance is not just repeating words, it is feeling. It is allowing the entire body to experience the peace, joy, and security of one who already lives the desired reality. It is like savoring a victory even before the battle begins. This deep feeling is faith in action, and faith is the only currency accepted in the invisible realm. It is not tears, not despair, not pleading that moves reality. It is certainty clothed in gratitude. Imagine someone who desires prosperity, but every night complains about lack. They send only signals of scarcity to the invisible, and life obeys. Now imagine another who, even amidst debts, thanks with serenity for the wealth that is already theirs in consciousness. They do not lie to themselves. They recognize that the external world still shows shadows of the old state, but they remain firm in gratitude for the new state. This person has already changed their harvest, because gratitude is proof that the seed has been accepted and rooted. To give thanks in advance is to align with the creative source. It is like placing a seal on a sent letter. It will not return, it cannot be ignored. The destiny is set. When you live in gratitude, the universe understands that the order has been received and begins to move all pieces to fulfill the decree. That is why so often, After a period of constant gratitude, improbable coincidences, unexpected doors, and transformative encounters arise. It is not chance, it is obedience. Make this principle a habit. Upon waking, give thanks as if you are already millionaires. Upon lying down, rest in the joy of one who already possesses. In the middle of the day, when faced with any difficulty, interrupt your anxiety and offer gratitude, not for the problem, but for the certainty that the solution already exists. This sustained attitude creates an atmosphere around you, an invisible force that attracts circumstances in accordance with the assumed state. And what will happen when you live this way? The impossible will become inevitable. Reality will bend to your silent conviction, not because you pleaded, but because you gave thanks, not because you waited, but because you already accepted. Anticipatory gratitude is the invisible signature of the contract with abundance. It proclaims, "It is already mine, it is already done, and nothing can prevent it from manifesting." Thus, close the creative cycle with gratitude. Do not ask, do not beg, do not despair. Give thanks. And when the world shows you proof, you will not be surprised because you already knew. You will simply say in silence, "It was inevitable." You have heard, and now there are no more excuses. Life owes you nothing. It merely reflects what you dare to assume. Every principle I have revealed is not a suggestion, it is a law, and the law does not fail. Humanity's error is living like a beggar before a banquet, when, in truth, they have always been an heir to the table. You kneel before appearances when you were made to govern through the invisible. From today, do not let your eyes dictate who you are. Do not let a bank balance, a boss's words, or a market fluctuation decide what you can or cannot be. The only throne is consciousness, and it is on this throne that you must sit with authority. Assume the end, discipline your imagination, free yourselves from appearances, act as one who already possesses, and give thanks before seeing. This is the path of the masters of reality. Wait no longer. The time for pleading is over. The universe does not respond to tears, it responds to decrees. And to decree is not to shout, not to beg, not to struggle. It is simply to assume within yourself, with the calm certainty of one who already has. If you do this, sooner or later, you will see the entire world move in your favor. People will emerge, opportunities will open, circumstances will reorganize. Not because life took pity, but because you commanded. Therefore, choose now. Will you continue begging for signs, living as servants of appearances? Or will you rise as creators, aware that everything has already been given, and that the only task is to assume and sustain? Act as if you already have millions, because in truth, in the state you decide to inhabit, you already possess. And when reality obeys, as it inevitably will, you will understand that it was never a miracle, it was always law.